Hey guys, welcome to round 16 buy hold sell with my friend Ryan.
Yeah, hey guys, fun round. This round for you in particular, not so much for me. We'll get into. Obviously, the main topic this week is Kolo, who recent news is that actually is looking pretty good with the eye fracture, and probably not back this week, or probably back the week after. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we'll just discuss that coming up.
And then another hot topic for this week is how well I performed. So I made this beautiful thumbnail, but we'll get to that later. Let's kick it off first of all with some buy hold sells. Um, my buy of the week is Jerome Hughes. They play round 18 and he has no more buys for the rest of the year. As a New Zealander, he will not be picked for Origin, and he can be in your side every week for the rest of the year, assuming he doesn't get injured or re-aggravates the injury that he's sort of been dealing with. And I guess that's the only downside towards buying him. At this price, any other year, any other circumstance, it'd be a no-brainer. But I guess there is worries of that niggle that's been bothering him. Last time he played, he came out and he got over 80s, which made it look like he was good to go. I actually didn't see that game, so I can't comment too deeply on that. But just along the same narrative, this sort of just makes every single Storm player that's not in Origin a buy if you rate them as a fantasy option.
Yeah, definitely. I guess with Hughes, it's kind of like comes down to whether or not you really need him this week. And I imagine most people have at least two out of, like a Sharp, Campbell, Savala, Fogarty, Hines, and Katoa. Like they all play this week. And so, like for me, he doesn't, well, he probably would make my starting 18, but it kind of, oh, sorry, starting 30, but then it's kind of like he forces someone else out. And so I think he probably can wait a week and really make sure that he's back to his best and then buy him still around like 600K. So he definitely is a good buy this week. And yeah, he's in my plan sort of, but I definitely think you can also wait a week if you want.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to safety over cash gen and cash management. I think
Yeah.
with someone like Pappenhausen as well, I think he'd be a good route if you don't want to hop on the Drinkwater train. And sort of
Yeah.
after Drinkwater's performance last week, you'd probably be better buying Pappenhausen this week as well, just because
Yeah.
he's going to lose a lot of value.
Yeah, for sure. Then our next guy is the one that I'm probably most likely to bring in this week is Talis Duncan. Look, obviously, after a great performance, everyone kind of turns to him and looks to bring him in. But his base stats actually have been pretty good, and I think he's about 48 in base stats, I think, on the weekend. So, that's pretty good, about 10 points higher than what he's priced at. I need him mid this round, and looking at some of the other options, there aren't many great ones, and so he plays 18 as well. Obviously, he's pretty much locked into that 80-minute edge spot now for the Rabbitohs. So look, a pretty safe buy. Maybe he doesn't have the best ceiling, but for a consistent scorer over the next 3 rounds, you could make you a decent bit of cash. I think it's fine to jump on.
Yeah, I think particularly with that break even and with Kolo out, he's a buy.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
Koloa Matangi himself is a hold just based off the fact that he probably won't be out for that long. But it definitely does increase Talis Duncan's stocks.
yeah, yeah. Definitely in the short term.
This is another very important buy in my eyes, despite the fact that he will have not the most ideal buy schedule coming up, and he definitely won't be scoring 99s every week. I think that's just a specialty you get when you get to verse the Cowboys. But Herbie Farnworth is the center of the year. Ryan will you were messaging me the other day having a go at me because I swayed you away from buying him in about round 6, and it probably would have been very good for your side if you did have him that early. But yeah,
Yeah, well,
this man alongside Dylan Lucas, Bo Fermo, in my eyes, they're the center keepers of the year. Um, the way he's been performing, the sort of vibe he has in terms of how he really goes for offloads. He does his defensive stats perfectly. He does his offensive stats perfectly. He might not get cheaper. I mean, now that he's in my side, I'm hoping he doesn't get any cheaper than he is currently. But yeah, despite the fact of the buyers not looking too good, I think he's someone that you really need in your side if you want to be competitive.
yeah, and it's just tough for me 'cause I don't see any way that I get to him really. But yeah, just such a good fantasy game, which is important for centers, and so kind of goes to next guy as well, Jaden Campbell. Like both of them, obviously miss 18, but are one of the best players in their position. So if you've got enough players for those rounds now, I think obviously it's definitely the top sort of time that you want to be looking to get these guys in, especially in a round of, when you can only field 13 players. As shown last week, having 13 of the best quality players you can get is super important. So both in great options. Obviously, Campbell, his break even back down to being pretty manageable. I don't see him getting any cheaper than 731K. With the original Kolo news, I had him in my team as a trade in, but now like Kolo's probably back soon. I'll probably bring him in round 19, but it's gonna be hard to watch him across the next 2 weeks though. So you can do either or, but yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's tough if you don't have Herbie or Campbell. I think you probably want at least one of them now. Um,
Mm.
I might come into some difficulties though in round 18 having both. But yeah, with the half wing fullback duel is very important asset for my side over the next few weeks. Get on to Nikora. Um, he's more sort of a I guess a luxury trade. He's not playing round 18, so he's not a top priority. But I do see situations for some people's teams where it makes sense to bring him in. He generally does fire pretty well around Origin, and he has been underperforming this year, so he is definitely at a very cheap rate right now with a low break even. I won't be purchasing him, and I probably don't imagine a lot of people will. But of the options this week, I think he's someone worth considering.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's still a good price, and if you're pretty set with other edges, like if you're like a Preston or a Couchman and you're looking to bring someone else in, I think it's definitely a good sort of cut price keeper you can get. But yeah, as you said, I mean, I'm not quite looking to them myself. I've got quite a few edges, but yeah, still good value.
Yeah,
And Tabernet as well. Also, yeah,
I was just going to touch on like there are a lot of good edges at the moment. Preston, someone will all want Couchman, like you said, Kolo Aitken. Some of us have Hosking. So yeah, look, it's very niche, very very niche. But this Nikora does have moments where he goes crazy. So I thought I'd add him in. But yeah, definitely Aitken and old mate Duncan's definitely a buy ahead of him.
yeah. Then Tabernet, just someone that I've kind of like. I know obviously he's already quite highly owned in a lot of teams, but definitely someone now is back when he was like 770K or 780, I think it was like I wasn't that keen with him, but got the cash now. So he's still a high break even, but he was more so if Kolo was out this week. I was well, so out for like a couple of weeks. He was someone that I was definitely targeting. With that news coming out recently that that's not the case, I probably wouldn't be buying Carbonet, but obviously still probably like a top five mid come the end of the year. I think the rest this week is going to be well. The rest of last week was probably quite good for him. Get back to like that kind of like 55 to 60 minute performances and getting the average back up. So look, probably isn't a buy now, but still definitely someone that if you don't have, which I don't, I am looking at to maybe get over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I'm happy that I have him, so I don't have to worry about this because he definitely is on that borderline between must have and
Yeah.
also maybe slightly too expensive. I think with the round 18 lack of mids, his stock goes up quite a lot. So I think that's the main reason for getting him in, but definitely someone that you can wait a week on with a break even that high. I'm hoping he does beat that, but there's a good chance that he doesn't. Latu Fanu was someone I brought in a couple of weeks ago, and I still would recommend just as a good cash out option, low break even. I still see him as being the long term half option with Luai this year. I'm kind of surprised that Heath Mason still secured the
Mm.
starting spot at number 6. I'm not really sure what the reason behind that is, but I don't see Latu getting any less than 40 minutes over the next few weeks, assuming he will take on a starting role. He's definitely someone that you can wait on, but I mean, as a cash out option, I think he's someone you can jump to now.
Yeah, he was someone that was originally my plans for this week, especially if he did start in the halves. But I think now I should wait and see. He might score in the 30s, go up another 20K, and it's still a good cash out option.
Yeah,
And that leads on to our next guy as well, who again probably isn't, obviously 30K more expensive, so not as great of an option, but 41 career average there at centre with playing with Hyde. And so look, his long-term security isn't great, but I think he's someone that can obviously cash him down now. You probably score 40s for the next 3, 4 weeks and go up a decent amount of cash and then be a good trade out option as well. So probably someone where if you have like a few more trades than like 10 or 10 or above, it's not a bad punt, but obviously if you are low on trades, I probably wouldn't be bringing someone like him into your side with that long-term risk.
Yeah, I think you do want to cash out smart. You want to cash out with flexibility to get points and to get cash gen. This week we only need to field 13, and a lot of us will probably have those spare players. So almost, I guess, in preparation for the rounds moving forward, there'll be a lot of big players returning. Lots of big players off on bye this week. I think now is a good week to pivot to some cashies, maybe bank some cash. Not necessarily something I need to be doing at the moment, but yeah, it makes sense for a lot of people.
Yeah.
All right, let's stick to some holds. I've put Hiroti as a hold. I'm not sure if you'll agree with me on this one, but he'll only be out for a couple of weeks. He's pretty cheap at the moment, and he was doing good numbers in the center wing fullback position. At worst, you can be using him as loops and stuff. Um,
Literally.
any disagreements on that?
No, no. Yeah, like definitely. I mean, as a leaper mainly, obviously, I know people probably have quite a few players out this week, but longer term, that's right. Then obviously, Colin Tongue, as we spoke about earlier, probably back within back by 18, which is like the main reason you know why we have him. So he's definitely a hold for at least this week just to see some more sort of diagnosis on what his injury actually is. And I've got Tavanga there as well, just because obviously, I know he didn't score great last week with HIA, but if you bought him earlier, obviously you knew he'd be at 16 anyway. So it still provides cover for Hooker in round 18, which is going to be like quite important spot to fill. So definitely hold him now till the end of the buy period.
And I guess Purdue has the same sort of vibe as Jazz there, where he plays center, and I think center's actually quite a bit of a tough position for 18. At
Around
this
10, yeah.
stage, at this stage, my plan will be Garrick and Kiraz, but Kiraz is prone to injury quite a lot. Um, I sold Purdue because I didn't trust his score. Um, yeah, look, I'm kind of cool with either options, but it makes sense to keep him for 18. We got Scotty Drinkwater peeking his head around the corner as well,
Yeah.
because that 13 probably enraged a couple people, including myself, who just brought him in. But he's definitely a hold. He's not someone you'll move away.
Yeah. And obviously, yeah, just anyone else out there plays around 18, just to give yourself small flexibility. I was about sells, just two really. Like these like the main guys who are I think above 10% ownership that I found that you should move on. So like Kawatu out for at least I think it's 6 to 8 weeks. He'd be back by. And then Hamish Stewart, obviously you're on a buy this week, but back to the bench and just not scoring the same as obviously what he was when he was starting. So it's a good time to move on his cash into someone else or cash down potentially if you've got the options.
Yeah, scary times. I was considering Olakawadu as a buy last week. I was expecting him to go big, but Manly just fucking sucks. So anyway,
Oh,
let's move on to some average score distributions. 810, 811 for the median. Trades are low
quite
in
high.
very low.
Yeah, yeah. But
Salary.
obviously, I mean, what 3 weeks or 4 weeks now from our extra trade, so it's not a terrible spot to be in if you have around 8 to 9.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's okay. I think people are burning through trades this year, but I think it's fine. Like I don't think you should be worried. Um, Average salary cap hasn't moved much, and I assume probably won't move much for the rest of the year. But let's get into some of our own teams, starting with mine. Um, 4 times trading, which I think is the first time I've done such a large move this year. It didn't feel like a large move, to be honest. I brought in some key keepers for the long haul. Controversially, I did end up selling Cleary and Haas, who I guess time will tell whether that comes to bite me on the back, but plans are to get them back as soon as I can. Cleary round 19, Haas 21, I believe. Iongi I could finally offload, and Tamale with injuries made sense for him to go. Couchman I'm hoping does go back to prop soon, but the other three, except for I guess Scotty, will hopefully be very well. All of them hopefully be very consistent scorers. Very rocks and diamonds, Scotty. But anyway, round 15 team. Best performance I think on a weekly basis I've ever achieved. Can attribute that mostly to Herbie going crazy for me and Brayley, who's probably my biggest pod. I wasn't expecting that from him. I was actually planning to sell him this week as a pivot to Hughes, but it makes sense now to keep him after the aggression he was showing. Adam Fanua-Blake also, it's nice having him in my team. And that leads me to my trade plans for this week. The only thing I'm thinking is Hughes. Definitely someone I can wait on, but wary of, I suppose, cash. And I do have a couple options sitting on my bench that I probably won't be utilizing in the future, even some spare mids. So yeah, we'll see. And then yeah, overloaded on mids this week, so I'll have to loop through a couple of the big boys and see what happens.
Yeah, it's quite the opposite to me. Yeah, so my week again, four trades, actually pretty good trades to be fair. That was my problem this week. Good old Iwali came out and scored. Oh, sorry, I think it's like Welu scored 43, so pretty happy with that. But just yeah, didn't have the mids available, and yeah, obviously no fine worth. And I mean, a lot of like the good scorers came from the Titans, the Sharks, and the Dolphins. And I only had one of those players in total. So that's just been unfortunate. I mean, 725, it's not bad for a buy round, but obviously so many people out there have such good squads and just didn't quite get enough out of a Preston or a KPP to lift me up the ranks a little bit. So it's annoying, but obviously that happens, and just need to make sure my squad's in the best spot for the run home. So this week it's a pretty simple trade from Takiyaho to Duncan. Um, yeah, I mean obviously yeah, I have to get 13. Well, I need one more mid to get 13. And there aren't really many options, really. Like it really is just him at that price. See, Tarpon I would have to do another trade to get. I don't think there's really anyone else. I thought Corey Jensen might be an option, and depending on the news with Haas and Carrigan, I might try it, but probably not. I'll probably just play it safe and get someone that obviously a lot of other people are in. And then for the round 16 team, just the one loop. Yeah, again, unlike you, quite low on mids actually, so that's sort of my issue, but pretty strong 13. Yeah, 13. Obviously, no Campbell, no Fineworth, which is concerning, but guess we'll just see how it goes, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting because at this stage it seems like people's teams are still relatively different. Obviously we all have the same main key guys like May, for example, but it's nice that you have pods that I don't and I have pods that you don't. Fletcher Sharp and Kai Pierce-Paul could be the two that go crazy for you. I think Sharp's back this week as well, which is nice.
Yes, which is good.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, uh, best of luck to everyone this week. Make sure to get your loops in. And yeah,
I'm glad
is
you
that
did
all?
the outro this time.
That's right, mate. All right, see you guys.